Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan and thanks for joining us for our Thursday update recorded on July the 25th. We've got this large anticyclone moving out of Australia, crossing over the Tasman Sea, and for Friday and Saturday it will track over the top of the North Island, bringing foggy areas into the weekend. But on the other end of it, the southern edge of it, as the high drags itself across the Tasman Sea, it pulls out this northwesterly airflow from the interior of Australia, from the outback, from Queensland. So warmer airflows coming down and moving into the New Zealand area. So 6 o'clock tonight, the areas in blue, they are below zero, but this warmer nor'wester is just starting to move in. So here we are at lunchtime on Friday, and you can see that northwesterly is moving up the South Island, covers about half of it, and you'll see that nor'wester also building up through Cook Strait as the day wears on. The centre of that high crosses right over the top of the North Island overnight Friday going into Saturday morning, and that means foggy areas will be around the usual areas, but it could be into Auckland, but across Waikato and other parts of the upper North Island. But the further down the country you go, that breeze will be kicking in and should blow away any foggy areas. Look at the maximum temperatures, 12 degrees for parts of central Otago and through the mountains and ranges. Not too bad considering we're in the depths of winter. And Hamilton, Dunedin, looking very similar as well, or at least Waikato. These are not main centre temperatures. They are just sort of giving you an idea of what is going on top, middle and bottom parts of the country. And you can certainly see we're about even right across New Zealand. So Saturday sees the high parked out here near the Chatham Islands. We've got a subtropical low. That's not going to impact us by any sort of measurable way. There might be slightly increased swells coming through. I think some of the surfers might like that. Bit borderline though, because it is quite a long way offshore and this big calm high pressure zone is over us. But those warm northwesterlies, subtropical connections to them coming through on Saturday, pushing a few showers and patchy rain into the west coast. Maybe a couple of isolated showers around the western side of the North Island as well. But look at the departure from normal temperatures. 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, all of New Zealand is in that orange shading. A couple of areas in white. That means you're bang on average for temperatures, but most of New Zealand is in that scale going up to around 8 degrees, and some of the mountains are going even higher than that because of that warmer airflow out of Australia. And that warmer airflow moves further up the country on Sunday as the high parks itself out to the east here. Subtropical airflow coming down as that nor'wester for central areas. So you've got rain on the west coast and a little bit of snow activity through the mountains. It's not widespread because there's not a huge amount of moisture, but you can see a little bit of a blue line there showing that we've got colder air. But speaking of the blue line, that is the proper southerly coming in here to Australia. And on Sunday night and going into Monday, that change goes all the way up to Queensland. So places inland from Brisbane are going to be down to -1 and -2. That is a long way north of New Zealand, and I point that out to indicate what is moving in towards us. But as I've said all week, this high that's responsible for dredging up this cold southerly is also sending a ridge of high pressure down south of New Zealand. So it kind of pulls up the southerly and then pushes its elbow out in the way and stops it from perfectly coming in. So it sends off this big southeasterly and southerly into Australia, but we've got this low here and a high out to the east, and that complicates the whole setup. So next week, a lot of people want to know, is it going to snow on the South Island? Yes, it is likely to snow in the mountains and the ranges and the hills. We're also looking at potentially some snow for the Canterbury Plains. It's not 100% locked in, but we're seeing it showing up in places like Oxford and Mount Somers. And then around Banks Peninsula, you may also see a dusting of snow and the Port Hills. Christchurch itself looks just outside getting snow at this stage, mostly because the southerly coming in turns around as an easterly here. It makes it complicated with this low pressure zone in the way. Kind of pushes more of the cold weather out to sea, and the ones the air that does come into land, perhaps more likely to produce snow at a higher elevation. And in the North Island, subtropical winds coming down. Now, some of you might sort of think, well, subtropical, no chance of snow. But if you put in a polar southerly or a southerly coming from well south of New Zealand, and you load that up with a whole lot of tropical moisture, and the two meet, that can produce some very heavy snow. And so it is, like I say, for the mountains, the hills, and the ranges. But if you're a farmer, especially those that have got maybe some newborn livestock, some of you do have that as early as now, just be aware, some pretty cold weather coming in for Tuesday of next week. I'm not going beyond that because the weather maps are chopping and changing so much. This is not locked in, but just remember the weather forecast we've got at Weather Watch, Rural Weather in our app. They are updated every hour, and it updates globally every hour. So it's really taking taking all the latest data, showing what is happening for next week, and crunching that every couple of hours or every hour. But every 12 hours, the big international models do their updates. So that's the reason why when you look at the models like this one here, the maps, the charts, about twice a day they update. So we'll keep you informed. We'll have another update on Friday and of course Monday of next week, and we'll have news coverage over the weekend in our news feed if anything does start to change with this event coming in for next week. But for now, that is all from me. We'll see you again tomorrow Friday with our Rain Watch update and a closer look at this stormy stuff coming in for the final week of July.